Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the listening public. Good evening to those who are here on the beautiful island of Nevis, those who are in our equally beautiful sisters and kits, those who are listening from elsewhere in the Caribbean. Let me send a special greeting and shout out to our friends and family in St. Martin, those in the U.S. Virgin Islands, in Anguilla, those who are in the British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and all parts in between. Let me not forget Stacia, our friends and family there, those in Montserrat, wherever you are. Good evening to you and welcome to an edition of On the Mark. I know that it is cold in the United States, it is cold in the United Kingdom, but I do know that we have regular listeners there. It is extremely cold in Canada. I want to say good evening to all of our friends and family, those who are listening in Canada, in the United States of America, in the United Kingdom, wherever you are. Good evening. I trust you're staying safe and warm and that the blizzards that I'm hearing are not having too much effect on you. I would remind you, of course, that Nevis is nice and warm. I do that each year because I want you to come home and see us. Some I know are not going to come this winter, but I expect that you'll be here with us for Culture Armor 50 and for our homecoming celebration. You'll hear a lot more on that. We have a packed agenda and a very exciting time that is scheduled for you. So, welcome to On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, Premier of Nevis, and I'm delighted to be back here with you for another period of conversation, a time for us to reflect, a time for us to speak to each other, a time for us to engage in debate and dialogue, and to see where we can find common ground. And even if we can't agree, we try not to be disagreeable. So, this is the opportunity for one and all to call, to be a part of the show, to engage, and I encourage all of you out there who have a view when you want to express that view, that this is the perfect forum. We have no commercials. We are 2 hours commercial free. We have been that way for the nigh 16 years that we've been here. And I want to go on record again to thank Daniel Brantley, law firm in Charlestown, which has supported this show every month financially for the past 16 years and made it possible. I can't say enough how grateful I am to Daniel Brantley for doing its part to keep freedom of speech alive and well in St. Kitts and Nevis. This show, because of its longevity, has become a staple in the Federation. I know that we have a good audience, many who listen the old-fashioned way to Vaughan Radio at 860 AM on their radio dial, some who listen on Facebook and look at the live, some who listen on YouTube, some who go to the website, but whatever your mechanism of listening, whatever your mode that you employ, I'm grateful that you're here and that you're spending some of your Wednesday evening with us. I want you to know that I don't take you for granted. I understand that in a busy world you have lots that you can be doing, but I'm happy that you choose this forum each Wednesday night from 8 to 10 p.m. to get accurate information, to get information which is what it is. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good, but you can always be assured that it is factual and that we don't engage in fabrications on this show, nor do we encourage others to use this platform for that purpose. We're not engaging in any slander or any defamation of anyone. You can tell yourself that if I come here and I tell you that Tom said something to Mary, then you can take it to the bank, because we are very proud of our record that in all the time we've been here, we have never offended or crossed that line. There's never been any need for anyone to take any action against On the Mark, because we have always ensured that we adhere scrupulously to the truth. And so I would want to welcome one and all to the show. At some point, as you know, it is a call-in show, so we tend to open the lines. And when that happens, I want you to call. The numbers then will be 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. When we tell you the lines are open, I want you to exercise that privilege that you have. And I say privilege because how many of us can be on the air talking to the world? And that's exactly what you do when you call into a program like this. You're on a big stage, a big platform. And so if you have multiple points, write them down. If you have points that you would want to develop, that's okay. Give yourself some talking points. I'm not in the habit of cutting off people unless you are somehow being rude or offensive, and we hope that there's no need for that. I am a good listener. I hear what you have to say. I don't always agree. And sometimes I don't want people to feel that I'm easy to fool. But I listen. and we have a debate. We have a discussion. Sometimes, as I say, we agree. Sometimes we respectfully disagree. But that is democracy. That messy thing called democracy, that is democracy, where different views of opinion and different ideas contend in the public space. And we who shout at the top of our voice what we believe must also be tolerant of others shouting at the top of their voices what they believe, even if what they believe doesn't accord with what we believe. In fact, even if it is diametrically opposed, we must at least understand that just as we have the right to speak, so too do others have the right to speak. I think if we have that maturity, then we would have a far better society and a far better community. Now I start, ladies and gentlemen, with a note of sadness. On Christmas Eve last year, when this show had already ended for the year, we got the very sad news of the loss of somebody who has been an iconic figure in the Stony Grove community for a long time. And that person is none other than a woman called Sylvanie Thompson. Miss Thompson is or was the mother of my brother and colleague and friend, the Honorable Spencer Brantley. And I wanted to reach out to him tonight through this medium to let him know that our thoughts and prayers are with him, that the Concerned Citizens Movement Party, of which he's a part, that our executive, rank and file, and our membership, that we are supporting him in his time of sadness and bereavement at the loss of his mom, and that tomorrow his mom's mortal remains will be laid to rest at the St. Paul's Anglican Church, and that we hope, through the grace of God, to be there in our numbers to support him and his family, and to let him and all of his siblings and relatives know that they're in our thoughts and prayers at this very difficult time. And so, Spencer, if you happen to be listening, I know you must be busy with 100 things as you make preparations for what will no doubt be a very difficult day for you tomorrow. But may you know that my thoughts are with you, the thoughts of all of us here at One Radio, the thoughts of all of us in CCM, the thoughts of your beloved constituents in St. Paul's, the thoughts of the people of Nevis are with you and your family at this very difficult time. And so I extend my heartfelt condolences to you, to your family. I extend my heartfelt condolences to all who mourn. And I think that you ought to be comforted in knowing that your mother lived a long life, and by all accounts, she lived a good and decent life. And I'm hopeful that the prayers of all of us will seek to comfort you in this, your time of bereavement. And so tomorrow I encourage all who can to come to the St. Paul's Anglican Church. I believe the service starts around 1 o'clock, but that you can be there to say your final farewell. And we know we go to funerals, yes, for those who have passed, but they don't know that we're there. So we go more so to show our respect, our empathy, our sympathy, and our prayers and thoughts with those who have survived, because they're the ones who ultimately will bear the burden of the grief, and they're the ones who, when they go home in those quiet hours, will have to confront the sadness and the loss of having lost someone so special to them. And so I invite all who can to come out and show your support for the Honorable Spencer Brand and his family tomorrow, and the support of this woman whom he himself described as the matriarch of his family. And so we say farewell to Miss Thompson, and we extend again heartfelt condolences to the entire family. If there are others out there who have lost loved ones, sometimes I get berated because people say you did not mention this of my loved one, and I ask for your forgiveness. Sometimes it's because I have not got the information. And so, to the extent that there are others suffering loss, I extend my condolences to you and your families as well. I also extend greetings to those who might be hospitalized at this time, those who might be ailing in some way, and to say to you that our prayers are equally with you for a speedy recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here at the end of the day to support each other. As I have often said, we are really but passengers on this train of life. And we make our entrances and we make our exits. What is important is what we do when we are on the stage. What is our performance? Is it something that will be good? That will leave a legacy that others will remember? Is it something that will be bad? That will equally leave a legacy that others will remember, but remember in a bad way? Or will we pass through and our lives will be so indifferent that no one remembers us at all? Ultimately, it's up to us. But there is a grave realization that death, that inevitable end, awaits us all. The Bible, I think, refers to life as but a vapor. And some used to say, today you're here, tomorrow you're gone. Now we hear that has been revised to say, today you're here and today you're gone. And if the good book itself says to us that life is but a vapor, then it really speaks quite eloquently to the need for us to live better with each other, to live better lives, to take care of each other, not to engage in some of the activities that all of us engage in from time to time, activities which seek to denigrate and attack and destroy. Some of us behave, like death is not awaiting us. We are rich, we're powerful, we're healthy, we're mighty. We look down on our neighbor, we look down on our friends, we look down on others. And I'm reminded that at the end of the day, all that awaits each of us is a box, if we're so lucky, and if your knee is 6 feet 6 inches below ground. And no matter how elaborate that box might be, in the fullness of time and in fulfillment of what we know to be true, we return to the dust from whence we came. And I believe that that realization should keep us all humble. And we should all be willing to live good with each other, to live at peace with each other, because no man knows his day nor his hour. We're here today, we're gone today. We do not know sometimes for whom the bell tolls or when our time will come. Sometimes you hear people say, oh my God, I didn't even know he was sick. Tragedy sometimes awaits us all. So let us, while we're here and still have breath, try to live good with each other. Try to help each other where we can. Stop a lot of the things that we engage in to undermine each other. And just be at peace. Ladies and gentlemen, there is, as always, a lot that's happening. I had the privilege yesterday to visit the Four Seasons Resort here, which currently is sold out. I want to say that again. The Four Seasons Resort is currently sold out. I'm happy to say that because when the Four Seasons is sold out, the other businesses on Nevis also benefit tremendously. Because one of the things I like about the Four Seasons is they, as part of their experience, actually encourage their guests to go out into the community to experience other restaurants and the sights and sounds of Nevis. And so when they're full there, you can be guaranteed that the other restaurants around the islands will get some business as well. The taxi drivers will get some business. Sunshines and the other operators on the beach will get some business. And so I was delighted to go there yesterday to give a brief welcome to those in attendance and to encourage them, because this is a special group of investors, over 300, to encourage them to invest more in Nevis, to do their business in Nevis, to have Nevis as a center of their financial activities and their financial planning. And I'm delighted that the reception was overwhelming and positive. And I'm encouraged that better days are ahead for the island. We have been doing well, but as I explained to someone, where perhaps we're experiencing exponential growth, perhaps on 5 and 6%, the growth in our region has usually been anywhere from 3 to 6%. What we are trying to achieve in Nevis is explosive growth. Not exponential, but explosive. And I look at Guyana, which has discovered oil. They will grow this year by over 30%, I think is the number that I saw. That is unprecedented. I would want us to see whether or not we cannot move this island. Instead of in steps, we can do so in leaps and bounds. And when I met with that group yesterday, I was encouraged because I said, here are a large number of investors in one space who love Nevis. In fact, many of them were here last year. They have since come back. And whilst the group has bought out the hotel, for I believe it's a week, there are many who are saying to me that they're going to stay as long as 2 weeks because they want to explore. They want to explore real estate opportunities. They want to explore business opportunities on the island. And I welcome them, I encourage them, and I welcome others as well. You know, each day as I have the opportunity and as the information is sent to me, I advertise jobs on Nevis. There are a number of positions, a number of businesses who are actively seeking employees. Just today, Mount Nevis Hotel indicated that they wanted a whole bevy of employees, bartenders, servers, people to work in that hotel. I have seen restaurants advertising. We are using our labor department as a sort of employment agency where employers can list their needs with that Department of Labor, and then we in turn seek to find people who are looking for work and match them with these employers. And they too have been publishing time and time again lists of work, lists of positions that are available. And I keep saying to our people that there is absolutely no excuse for you not to have a job. Not in today's Nevis. Jobs, as we would say in our colloquial parlance, banging dog in Nevis. And I would urge you to get up and do something. I keep saying to our people, it may not be what you want to do, but you do what you have to do until such time as you can do what you want to do. Because going out and working is far better than the alternative, which is to sit at home, not work. And as we know, the devil finds work for idle hands. Some people have said to me that there's so many jobs available on the island of Nevis now that they don't only just want one, they take 2 and sometimes even 3. Social Security, which tracks these matters, is consistently telling us that we have more jobs than workers in Nevis, more jobs than employees. And as a result, those excess jobs are being mopped up by persons who are sometimes doing 2 and 3. We're also seeing a healthy inflow of individuals who are coming in from parts of the Caribbean and parts farther afield. And they too are coming seeking work and gaining employment here on the island of Nevis. I believe it's a good thing. I keep saying that the state of immigration, that is, people coming into this island, is the best indicator of the economic upturn and the economic fortunes of this island. People do not leave their countries to go to countries where there are no opportunities. People are leaving their countries to come to the island of Nevis because they know that in Nevis there are opportunities. And that is why when a brother or sister comes, they call their family, they say, come, there's opportunity here. They call their cousin, they call their friends. They reach out to people in their village and in their communities from whence they've come, and they say, come, there's opportunity here. And they say these things because sometimes the people who neighbor Stringberry here sit back and you hear them moan and say nothing is happening and there's no opportunity and things bad with them. But I have lived long enough on this island to see people who have come from the Dominican Republic in their numbers, who sometimes do not speak any English, no habla inglés, but yet they are here, they're working 1 job, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and they are making their way. They are making their way. They are advancing themselves and their families. And I sometimes marvel and say, how do people who no habla inglés, who don't speak English, can nevertheless come to an English-speaking country, find work, sometimes not just 1 but 2 and 3 jobs, perform at their work, make their money, build a life. And you have people who say, me banya neighbor Stringberry, who telling you all the reasons why they can't get ahead in the island and land of their birth. I was speaking to someone recently who said to me that when we traveled to places like the United States Virgin Islands in the days of old, that there was a similar phenomenon that played out there. That because we were from the down island, as they used to call us, we were the non-belongers, we were the aliens, whatever the name, we were the immigrant population, that we are the ones who went to work and we took jobs and we did jobs that the Tomians and the Crucians said they didn't want to do because they banya, the neighbor Stringberry, my son, I from here. I ain't doing that work, my son, I from here. So you prefer to stay home and keep telling yourself you're from here. And then guess what? The people who ain't from here are the people who after time, as they work, as they save, as they invest, they start to rise. These phenomena are not new. We see them all over. I'm going to share a little anecdote with you. I don't mean any offense, but it is something that we used to do. When we were boys in school many moons ago, we used to laugh. And we used to look across the waters at our brothers and sisters in Sinkers and say, man, the first money a kitchen make as a youngster come out of school, I run go buy car. And we used to compare that and say, in Nevis, when we make money, we want house and land. That's what we're concerned about. And if Granny leave us a piece of land, because a lot of us inherit land, that's how the Nevisian way, we want to put down a little something on it. So we prefer in Nevis back then to catch bus and walk and ride bicycle, even ride donkey, if we could take our money and invest in a piece of land and a property. And we used to say, look at that difference between St. Kitts and Nevis in terms of the attitudes. Well, can we still say that? Can we still say that? Because what we're now seeing is that those who have decided to seek opportunity in Nevis, just as we, let us remember, because some of us want to forget, sought opportunities in other lands. That phenomenon is now playing out, and some who are seeking, and when they come, they say, listen, I don't want to continue paying rent, you know. My father, Irvin Brantley of blessed memory, always used to tell me, son, rent is dead money. So what do you mean by that? Rent is dead money. And if your plan is to pay rent for 20, 30 years, the only thing you're doing is you're paying off somebody's mortgage for them over and over and over again. Sometimes by the time you add up that money, you don't buy the house twice. And I am hearing so many people who have found Nevis and have said Nevis for them is home. that they're looking to buy a piece of the rock. They're looking to build a home. They're looking for something to call their own. And all I'm doing when I speak this way is to appeal to our own people. Somebody said to me the other day, "Oh, Premier, you're getting blamed because it is being said that non-nationals are taking up jobs in the private sector in Nevis, and it's your fault. You're letting them do it." And I smiled. I smiled. Because the truth be told, within the context of CARICOM, there are certain protocols in place where professionals, once they fall into certain categories and have what is called a CARICOM skills certificate, that they can come, and there's no stopping them from coming. So if you're a lawyer, doctor, you fall into the various categories, accountant, you can travel freely throughout the CARICOM region for those who have signed on to those protocols. If you are not from those categories and you're still minded to come, then different rules will apply. And you need to get the work permit and all of that. Now within the Caribbean region, you have the broader set that is CARICOM, and then you have a smaller subset that is the OECS. Well, within the OECS, comprising Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia. I believe that those are, with the exception, and Anguilla, I believe those are, with the exception of Montserrat and Anguilla, the independent members, that there is freedom of movement. And what that means is if somebody from Dominica tomorrow decide I want to move to St. Kitts or Nevis, or vice versa, somebody from St. Kitts or Nevis decides I want to move to Dominica, they can do so. In fact, the OECS has gone so far now to say that if you leave Antigua with your driver's license and come here, you can drive on your Antigua driver's license here, and vice versa. The OECS, as we know, we share the EC dollar, we share common court, we share common aviation authority, we share common stock exchange, we share a lot of things. And we have become a very good example of regional integration for anywhere in the world to look at. The only place we have not integrated within the OECS is the political area. But I say that to say this, that when we see people here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and they tell you they're from St. Vincent, they're from Dominica, they're from Grenada, they're from St. Lucia, they're from Antigua, as the case may be, I want you to understand that the protocols that are in place are such that there is no government that can stop them from coming, because that is what we have agreed. And equally, if we were to find opportunity in St. Lucia or in Dominica or in Antigua, then it works the same way within the context of the OECS. I'm not saying that by way of explanation per se. I'm saying it so that our people understand that these are the realities. And as we integrate and open up the region, and as our people start moving around freely, what it means is that it will become more competitive for work. I made the point recently in the National Assembly. We now have the highest minimum wage, guaranteed minimum wage, by law in the OECS. Now in some countries in the OECS, mark you, we have freedom of movement. So what that means is if a laborer in St. Vincent decides tomorrow I want to move to St. Kitts or Nevis, he or she can. If a doctor decides tomorrow I want to move from Nevis to St. Vincent, he or she can. If a Dominican decides I can find work here in Nevis, he or she can come. And that is the way it works. Reciprocity, freedom of movement. But I made the point in the Parliament that with now the highest minimum wage in the region and set to go higher, when we juxtapose that to the fact that within the OECS there are some of the countries who perhaps are not doing as well. And that is the nature of things, because there will always be a cyclical flow, an ebb and flow, a back and forth, and up and down in regional economies. But while St. Kitts and Nevis has been doing fairly well in terms of our economy, and jobs are being created and opportunities are being created, and therefore people are coming, we need to reflect that within some of the OECS countries, they have no minimum wage in the same way that we do. What do I mean by that? You see, in St. Kitts and Nevis, if you are a dishwasher, if you are a housekeeper, if you iron clothes, if you cook, whatever you may be doing, if you are a laborer, you work on a farm, that might be considered minimum wage work. You are paid across the board, across all those different jobs, at the minimum set by law. Put differently, if you're a cook or you're a cleaner or you're a dishwasher, you iron clothes, you cannot be paid less than the stated minimum. I believe that is now $10.50 per hour, if I'm correct, that is what it was put at. In some of the other OECS countries, it is not so. And what they have is minimum wage per sector. So, for example, they may say that if you work at a hotel, well, what you're doing at the hotel is washing dishes. Or you work at a restaurant, you're not the chef, you're a dishwasher. Then that dishwasher, the minimum wage, and some of the minimums I heard were quite low. In fact, I heard minimum wage as low as $2.75 an hour. And so if I happen to be a dishwasher in one of the OECS countries, knowing that I have a right to move freely within the OECS, and I'm making $2.75 an hour, and I look across and I see that there is St. Kitts and Nevis where I can do the same dishwashing but make $10.50 an hour, then I may decide, well, let me go there and do washing dishes there instead. Now, of course, that is a simplistic way to look at it, because one would also anticipate that the cost of living in St. Kitts and Nevis would be higher. But I make these points so that our people will have an appreciation of the direction in which the region is moving. And that what it therefore means is that we as a people must make ourselves more competitive. We must not be willing to sit back and act as if merely because we are born here, and no, for no other reason, that we are automatically entitled, because that is no longer the way of the world. I know perhaps when I speak like this, some feel troubled by it. But I prefer that you be troubled, and that by being troubled you are spurred to act, than if you continue to be complacent. We need to seize opportunities when we see them. You know, I spoke to one person, and I said to that person that there was an opportunity, and I suggested they apply. The person said to me, I will not apply. And I said, why? And they say, me know me bad lucky, me not gonna get you. And I thought to myself, that was an interesting approach to life. So I said to the person, let me assure you that if you do not apply, you are guaranteed you will not get through. Because if you do not apply, those who have and are offering the opportunity can't know about you because you did not apply. So while you are saying that you will not apply because you are bad lucky, by not applying you are ensuring that you could never be lucky. It's like the man who says he's not going to play the lotto because he knows he's not going to win. Well, if you don't play, you're guaranteed that you're not going to win. So I invite and encourage our people. Listen. Reach out. Apply. If they don't answer, apply again. Knock on the door. Apply many places. Call them up. Wherever you hear some soup dripping, take your bowl. That is the way we need to start to look at life. You hear about opportunities. You know how it grieves me to speak to some of our people and hear them say they have youngsters in the household not working. And when I ask them questions like, well, have they tried here? Have they tried there? Have they tried there? They either hear, oh, I didn't know about that, or, oh, me know want my son and my daughter walk over there, that's too far. These are the kinds of responses that you get. I'm aware of people who have left jobs. And one would think that you leave a job, you go to a better job. But instead they go on home, go sit down. Young people. And say they're living their best life. And you say, I'm speaking in this way because I believe it is important that we who are temporarily given authority to govern, to lead, must also have the duty to speak in an open and honest way with our people, and to disabuse their mind of this notion that they can get through in life simply by sitting back and being complacent. I spoke to a chap the other night from Trinidad, and he said something to me, and that's why I feel it's not a uniquely Nivision thing, it's a Caribbean thing, because he said to me, in Trinidad, when you give a man a job, the man late every day, he want to take an extra half an hour for lunch. Least little rain up there, he calling, say, boy, the place rainy today, I can't come to work. He wake up in the morning on the wrong side of the bed, he calling, he say, oh, my shoulder hurting me, I can't come today. He said, but you take that same Trini and you land him in New York City, where it's raining, it's snowing, you got blizzard, he got to take 2-3 trains to get to work. And he said, guess what? He's at work every day and on time, because he got bills to pay. And if you can't pay the landlord, you get thrown out. You don't have the same type of culture, but it's the same individual. And so you ask yourself, well, why is it that this individual in his or her natural environment will not function optimally, but you take them and you put them in London City, you put them in New York City, and all of a sudden they know what punctuality is. All of a sudden they know what they need to do to work hard in order to succeed. What then is the difference? Why are they not prepared to practice that same way and have that same approach in their natural environment at their home? Why not? And I want us to reflect on these things, because we talk a lot about productivity. Are our people being productive? I have shared this story a million times, and I'll share it tonight again. That I recall some years ago, I went into a government office. This was before my time in politics. When I went into the government office, the young lady who was sitting in that government department, she was on her phone. I don't know what she was doing, but she was on her phone. And as I came in, I cleared my throat, and she looked up at me from her phone, and I said, I'm trying to find so-and-so. And she said, they went out, or they're not here, something like that. And put their head back down into their phone and continued whatever they were doing on their phone. This was at a government department right here in Charleston. I shook my head, I left. Later that day, I had occasion, I was a practicing lawyer at the time, to meet with a client at the Four Seasons. And as I entered the lobby of the Four Seasons, I encountered the same young lady whom I had encountered prior at the government office. And when I saw her at the lobby of the Four Seasons, she said, "Good evening, sir. How can I help you, sir?" And I looked at her, because I had seen her earlier in the day and she didn't even have time to lift her head from her phone to deal with me. But here she was at the Four Seasons, a paragon of customer service and good customer relations. And I recall saying to her that I wanted whatever it was. I ordered something. And she said, "Certainly, sir." And she went off. And I felt to myself, the same human being. Government environment during the day, no customer service. Four Seasons at night, "Good evening, sir. How can I help you, sir?" What is the difference? It is for us to determine that wherever we are and whatever role we happen to be playing, we will give of our best. And what that taught me is that this lady was eminently capable of offering better than she had offered me at the government offices earlier that day. I want us to reflect on these things. Because if we are to progress and if we are to do better, we must give of our best. We must seek to excel. If I'm a street cleaner, I must be the best street cleaner. If I'm a driver, I must be the best driver. If I'm a plumber, carpenter, fisherman, I'm a farmer, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a politician, whatever it is that my calling is, I must be the best. That must be my philosophy. And that must be my approach. And only so will we be able to stand our own and compete with anybody, wherever they come from. So long as we consider to sit on the block and moan and lament that I can't find nothing to do when job in Neve is banging dark, we will not be able to make it. And so I urge our people, as I always do, I don't want anybody to say of me once I've left the stage that he didn't say, he didn't try. Because I genuinely believe that we need to have these types of conversations with the public. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I had the honor of spending some time in the presence of our beloved Deputy Governor General, Her Honor Hailita Liebert, the Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Cromwell Henry. We had also at the head table Inspector Stevens of the Nevis Division, and we were in the presence of Mr. Cumberbatch, who was the Force Chaplain, and we had the guest speaker being Reverend Ron Daniel. I apologize to Reverend Daniel today, and I apologize now again publicly, because today was also my cabinet day, so I could not stay to hear his presentation. But I was privileged because we all convened with the men and women of Division C, Nevis, of the St. Christopher and Nevis Royal Police Force. And I want to commend the force, the High Command and junior ranks, because they have each year held a service to usher in the new year, to ask for God's grace and guidance and protection, but also to start the new year on a good note. And I've been privileged to attend with them before, and I was privileged and honored to be invited to be there with them today. I want to say to our policemen and women that we value you. We value what you do. That we appreciate all the efforts that you make to keep us safe, that when we are in the comfort of our homes at nights, that you are out there manning the ramparts and ensuring that the people of the Federation remain safe. I have never sought to publicly criticize our police. They're human, and like all humans, they tend to err from time to time. But when they do that, I prefer to have a private word, because I believe that it is important that we as a public recognize that we can never really afford to compensate some of the service people who we depend on. Police, teachers, nurses, and I can go on and on, our sanitation workers, that we often take them for granted and that we don't sometimes appreciate the sacrifice that they make. Let the dump truck don't come around for 2 or 3 days. The garbage starts to pile up. We recognize then how important the sanitation workers are. Let there be a break-in at our house, or we see suspicious characters, or we are in fear and the police don't respond. We then find out how important the police are. Let us be admitted to the hospital at 2 and 3 in the morning, needing care. We then recognize how important our nurses are. And when we have little Johnny at home and can't get him to read, and we send him to VOGN or to CPS Charleston Primary or to Ivor Walters Primary, we recognize how important our teachers are. We don't often get to say it or show it every day, but I was privileged this morning to be able to say to our rank and file and our high command that I, as Premier of Nevis, appreciate what they do, and that we all on this island should appreciate them, honor them, value them, because of the sacrifice they make, sometimes leaving their own families to be out there protecting you and I. And I'm urging the public to work with our police. They're not perfect. I'm pretty sure that they make their own mistakes. They're humans just like us. But to work with them, to share information with them, to prevent crime, because that's really what we would like to do. But when crime does happen, to ensure that we apprehend and bring to justice the criminals. So to all the police officers, St. Kitts and Nevis, I say to you a Happy New Year, and I wish you well. Your task is difficult, but if done well, it endures to the benefit of all of us. And we are all interested in ensuring that we live, work, play, do business in the safest possible environment that we can. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Brantley, and you're listening to On the Mark. It is 10 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock. This show goes until 10 o'clock, and so we have an hour and 10 minutes or so to take your calls. I'm inviting you to call in to speak to any of the things that I have said, but also to speak to anything that is impacting your mind. This is a show where we share ideas, we have conversations, and in so doing, we contribute to that significant foundation of our democracy, which is freedom of speech. And so I invite you now to call. The numbers are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Good evening. You are our first caller. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Michelle.
Good evening to you.
And how are you?
I am well and always glad to hear your voice.
Ecclesiastes 3 verse 11 and 12. He had made everything beautiful in his time. Also, he had set the word in their heart so that no man can find out the works that God made from the beginning to the end. I know that there is no good in him, but for a man to rejoice and to do good in his life. Miss Sheriff, I realized Charleston looked like the garbage heap over a dump truck. Over a dump, you know what I'm talking about. Charleston not a cleaner. The tongue nasty, dirty. The fellow who used to clean the road, the man put him off so that he all that he take. But I'm saying if the man was shaking, then he could have tell you, well, go home and I'll get somebody to do it. Charleston, dirty. The man who used to clean Charleston, if you see that boy put his hand in the drill and scrape up dust. Or something that he do, garbage all over Charleston, and Charleston used to be so. The amount of garbage in the small square, you're surprised. Everybody talk about it. Me see it to myself and I feel bad about it. Raoul Archibald did a good job and he need to come back.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. I think that I have noted that. I myself have not seen what you have seen, but certainly if it is that there are difficulties in Charlestown, these are matters that we need to look at.
You see the fellow who clean there in front of body and he shove everything, even the very styrofoam, you shove in the drain and miss it. Raoul a man left his bed all of 4 o'clock and on the road and clean the road. The road don't clean and people come a town. So how we going to mix between cleaning the road and people in town? That's not decent, Mr. Sheriff. That's not decent.
Okay.
You have a wonderful night and I love you, Jojo.
All right. Well, thank you very much and thank you for bringing it to our attention. These are matters which we must always be cognizant of because cleanliness is next to godliness. It is a matter that affects health. And we must always be careful that we have a town especially, which is the heartbeat of Nevis is Charlestown, that we must have it in a pristine condition. So I will have a word with the Ministry of Health. I am, as I said, have not seen what you have described myself, but certainly I don't take what you say lightly. I do know that we had stalwarts like Raoul and those who have cleaned town for many years, but you must also accept, caller, that people get on in age, and what are we going to do? We're going to have Raoul working until he's 90 or 100, and then he's no longer able. He passes on, and then what? So at some point we have to transition, and we have to get other people involved. What we need to do is to instill in those others the need, as I said earlier, to be the best at what they're going to do. I did not know what your call would entail tonight, but I recall saying that if you are a drain sweeper, if you are a cleaner, you must be the best. And so that is what we need for people to take pride in their work and to do their work properly. And you're absolutely correct. Raoul was one of those people who was a classic example. But Raoul can't continue to work forever. And that is the reality that we face, all of us, as human beings. But I take what you said on board, and certainly I will have the Ministry of Health look into that. I do know that, for example, we would get the fire department to flush out the drains in town from time to time. I'm not sure if that has been done recently or how often that has been done, but all of these things would need to be done as we get our town in tip-top shape, for us certainly, but obviously as well, caller. We are celebrating our 50th anniversary of Culturama this year and have our homecoming celebration. And so we are hopeful that we can have Nevis in pristine form. As we wait for the phones to ring, let me also indicate that the Ministry of Finance, as I indicated in my budget address for this year, we are circulating information to the general public, and you'll hear more about it. But what we're seeking to do is to encourage Nevisians, those who own property in Charlestown and elsewhere, to spruce up your properties. And we're calling it a Culturama 50 incentive, if you will. What we're seeking to do is to allow you to buy the necessaries, the paint, the necessaries for fencing, for home improvement, and for you to be able to do that to spruce up your properties. We are hopeful in time for Culturama, and so we are taking off the VAT and the duties and things of that nature. You will hear more in terms of the details, but we're encouraging homeowners really to use this opportunity to invest and to bring their properties up a notch. So if you were waiting to paint your house, we encourage you to do it now because we're going to give you some concessions on the paint. If you're waiting to fence your yard, we encourage you to do it now, because we're going to give you some concessions on the fencing. That is what we're seeking to do, to encourage our people to really lift their homes, lift their properties, and add value. And so the government is putting together a package which you'll hear more about in short order. But caller, thank you for that call. And certainly it would be good to hear from others to know if that's their experience in Charlestown as well. And we are here to share ideas and to engage with each other as to how we can do better. And so I thank that caller for that call. The numbers again are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. It is now 2 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock. And if you have just tuned in, you're listening to On the Mark, straight talk across the Narrows. I am Mark Brantley, Premier of Nevis, and I'm privileged to be a host of this show this evening. And thank all of you who might just be tuning in, and those of you who have been with us for almost an hour already. The show ends at 10 o'clock. So if you have something to say, now is the time to say it. Because sometimes people call me after the show is over and say, oh, I tried to get in and I couldn't get in. Well, you have an opportunity now. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. And if you happen to be viewing online on YouTube, if you happen to be viewing on Facebook, then you certainly can share the link and share the live, as we like to say, and get more people in tune, because I think as a show and as a platform, we have something unique that we've created over the years that really gives people an opportunity to speak and to speak freely. Ladies and gentlemen, let me switch gears then while we wait for the phones to ring, and we talk a bit about the politics. At the end of the day, of course, I'm a politician. We've seen a lot of politics played out. Nevis, well, let me take this call. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Caller, are you there? Okay, I'm not hearing this caller. Caller, if you can call back, and please, if you're calling in, speak into the phone. We're not hearing you at all. 869-469-1616 and 1700. Those are the numbers to call. So, a bit of politics, if you will. Nevis has been... Let me go back to the phones and let's try again. Caller, good evening. You're on the mark. Hello, good evening. Hello?
Yes, hello.
Yes, you're on the mark.
Yes, I have a suggestion. You there?
Yes, caller, you have a suggestion. What is your suggestion?
The suggestion is for the police and possibly the fire to not work extended hours, but change their shifts such that they're not working long hours and sleeping at the stations, but yet are out on patrol. In other words, there should be 3 8-hour shifts versus one, say, for instance, 48-hour shift.
Caller, I'm not sure I'm understanding. Caller, slow down a bit. I'm not sure I'm understanding the recommendation that you're making. Could you repeat?
Yes. So, I believe currently police officers are on long shifts, extended hours, but yet are not out on patrol because they must sleep. For instance, during the evening, there should be 3 8-hour shifts where everybody, the cars and the patrol officers are out on duty versus at the station sleeping.
Okay. I believe that we have full coverage on the island. That's why I'm a little puzzled, because
no, but they don't. They're not out on patrol. They're at the station, and because of extended hours, they're not out on patrol. They have to sleep during their shifts.
Okay, but if you're sleeping, caller, then you can't be sleeping on your shift. You can only be sleeping on your time off, no?
No, but that's not the way it works.
Okay. Well, all right. I will certainly have to ask a question, because my understanding is that obviously police officers rotate in and out. Some are out on patrol, others are at the station. but the stations are manned 24/7 and officers are out. They may have their own routines in terms of patrol. They may patrol one area this evening, a different area next evening. I see them as well doing foot patrols in places like Charlestown. So I have seen them out, but if you're saying that they're not out, instead they're sleeping, then that has not been my observation, but certainly I would ask the question.
Just ask the question to the higher command, what are the shifts? How long is the officer on duty at a time?
Yeah, but how long the officer on duty is qualitatively different to the question of whether or not they're out and about or they're sleeping.
Well, you can't be out and about for 24 hours. So
No, of course not.
If 24 or 48 hours, you can't be out that long. So I'm asking, please, look at that. I think if you went to 3 shifts versus these long shifts, we will get more patrols, more people out, and better safety for the island.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the suggestion, and I will undertake some research for myself. Thank you for that. All right?
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, caller. We're taking your calls, 869-469-1616 and 1700. And that caller had an interesting suggestion about the police, but certainly if you have something on your mind, we urge you to call in and to benefit from that as well. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good night, Mr. Brantley. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Good evening to you.
Oh, Happy New Year to you and all of the divisions.
Same happy returns to you.
At home and abroad. Now, I have been, I'm blind now, so I don't really move around much. But I have been wondering what has been the economic impact of the water taxes on the ferries that go to the Bastille port.
What has been the economic impact?
Yes. All the ferries running still, is the Sea Hustler running?
The Sea Hustler, as I understand it, is still running. It's under new ownership, or new management. It is still running. I am not aware that any of the ferries have stopped running. In fact, what we have done is I think we have got a lot more ferries, but maybe smaller ferries. And they run at greater frequency from Charlestown. So both are being utilized. Bear in mind, caller, that the water taxi is more expensive than the ferry from Charlestown.
Right, and you have to get all the way over the peninsula?
You got to get to the peninsula, and in Nevis you have to get over to Orly, and the cost is more. It is widely used, but nevertheless there's a cost differential. So I
was wondering if they put in the ferries out of business.
There's no evidence of that, because I said
the next thing I want to talk about, somebody talking about is there customs whatever at the port at the Reggae Beach, or police to monitor the movement of illicit goods,
Well, there should be no need for customs because it's not a port of entry.
Now what I really mean though,
yes,
we have this gang and whatever, and the police should have some idea of some of the people who are involved there in both islands. Do they monitor the movement of people? Do they pay like how you pay $1 down at the ferry? Do they pay anything to get across?
We pay in Nevis. There's a $5 fee.
What about
you have to. There's nothing in place in St. Kitts at Reggae Beach. It is one of the things that we have been asking, and I believe that I've recently seen some drawings and some plans to develop something there at Reggae Beach. But on the Nevis end, we have security. We have the names that are being taken and tallied.
I've been thinking about it, because sometimes when you hear certain things happen, it is done by residents of the other islands, and with the crime going up and the young people moving and whatnot, we should be able to do some tracking. I don't mean getting into their personal affairs, but you should have an idea as to who is who. You can't know everybody, but I recall years ago, the police used to come around and take the name actually in a book, write down the names of the persons who congregated in gangs, so that when there's movement and functions in Nevis, you have an idea. Because you're having all these bold robberies.
Caller, we do know who is moving to some extent because...
In Nevis, I mean?
No, also you're coming from St. Kitts and you get on the boat. The boats themselves take...
because these bold robberies that are going on in Nevis.
Yeah, well, caller, let us talk to each other so I can help to clarify. What I'm saying to you is that those who are traveling on the water taxis do fill out information on their way up and on their way back down.
Oh, they do?
They do fill out information because the water taxi operators themselves need to have that information available. So we do it in Nevis, NASPA, where there's a security hut and you fill out the information, but the water taxis themselves also, as far as I'm aware, fill out that information.
You mean on the way from St. Kitts and Nevis?
Yes. So if you're on the water taxi, you would have to write down your name, your contact, etc., because that is the way they keep a tally of how many people they're carrying.
Yeah, I've been saying you these lot of bold robberies there in Nevis. I said, I wonder if the division boy are the collaboration in the event. Anyway, I'm praying for our countries, and I'm praying for our young people, and I want to admonish them, as you do. It don't make no sense to sit down on a corner, but you see, why the reason they could afford to sit down on the corner, they're being fed. They have no rent to pay. They're being fed either at home or by their friends. So they could afford to sit down. But they got to get more ambitious than that. All right then.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your call as always. Ladies and gentlemen, we're taking more calls at 869-469-1616 and 1700. I talked for... 45, 50 minutes, so now it's your time to talk, and I'm simply here to facilitate the conversation. But just to say, caller, that I agree with you, more security is better than less security. Certainly on the Nevis end, I think we do a fairly good job of monitoring the traffic back and forth, making a note of who's traveling, and I think you can find that there. That is why we have an entry book, if you will, that the notation has to be made, and the boats themselves also make a note of who's traveling with them. That is for purposes of their own internal accounting as well. So there is a fairly good control. The point you make about customs, well, obviously these are not points of entry, so there's no customs per se. But the point about patrols and police and monitoring, I think that's a very valuable point, because the water taxis are getting more and more popular. It is our hope that in the fullness of time, the Reggae Beach side will be built out. On Nevis, certainly, we have invested heavily on this side in terms of the water taxi, but we'd like to see the same being done in St. Kitts as well, so that that which has become part of our travel, inter-island travel, becomes even more seamless. Let's go back to the phones. It is 10 past the hour. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
I would like to send over condolences to Mr. Brand and his family from myself and family. And Mr. Brand, I am Ryan's junior grandmommy. Okay? My scripture reading tonight is taken from the book of Psalms, chapter 1. And I will read 3 verses. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Good night, Mr. Brantley. Have a nice night.
Thank you very much. We're truly grateful to you for that. While I'm here, people are listening to the show, so people are sending me messages. Somebody just sent me a photo of a bag of garbage, it looks like, in the square in town, and clearly the garbage bag had been torn, and so there was some garbage there. And I think that we need to encourage our people also to be more patriotic. Let me use that language. A lot of our people really engage in activity that they ought not to engage in. I don't know why anybody would put a bag of garbage in the square. We also have a congregation sometimes of people who congregate in the square. They're drinking, they're being rowdy. Some of them even go and try to pee in the area. And really, we have said and asked the police time and time again to move them out of the square. The square that is right in front of the courthouse really is a place that should have some element of reverence, for the simple reason that it was put there as a reminder and as a monument to those who perished in the Great Wars. And I really think that all of us need to invest more in terms of our attitudes, in terms of our love of this island, in terms of our putting our best foot forward to ensure that we don't engage in activity that really cheapens our town and our monuments. Let's go back to the phones. Caller is gone. Caller, please call back in. That for me is important because a lot of times we act like we don't care. And I've always said in government that you give people the opportunity to do what is right before you pull out the big stick, so to speak, and try to force people. So for those guys who like to hang out in the square, I'm asking you all not to do that. The drinking and the carousing and the bad behavior and the garbage and all of that, that doesn't belong in our squares. Let's go to the phones. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
Happy New Year to the entire Nevis community and to yourself and family as well.
Thank you and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. I'm originally from Butlers, but I live here in St. Martin. You did make some interesting points tonight, and some of them I can, relate to. I mean, I've been working on St. Martin for the past, amount of years. I came here as a young man. But I would like to know, when it comes to politics, how is the relationship over in Nevis with, not necessarily yourself, but with the party, with your government and that of the opposition? I know there was something going on with those ladies. I don't know if they have reconciled with each other. And another point I would like to mention, what is the status of the road in Butlers? Because many times I'm seeing comments that or hearing reports that the road was not finished as yet. So I was just wondering if it is finished as I speak, going into the new year, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And one more thing I would like to say, here in St. Martin, we just had a parliamentary election.
Yes.
And we had about 8 parties, contesting for parliament. And apparently the 2 biggest parties, they were, as it were, pushed aside, and 4 different parties came together with 2 seats each to form the incoming government. Do you see that happening in Nevis, if that was to happen, like 4 different opposition parties coming together to form like one broad-based government? I thought it was just a matter of trying to get the 2 biggest parties out of office because they are the current government now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that happening anytime soon? I mean, in the next election, if that was to happen?
Okay.
Just a question. Thank you very much, and I listen.
All right. Thank you for your call. You've asked some thought-provoking questions. In fact, when I look at what St. Martin is now doing, that is what we had attempted to do with Team Unity at the federal level. Because if you recall, the federal government that took office in St. Kitts Nevis in 2015 was comprised of 3 political parties: the CCM from Nevis, the People's Action Movement from St. Kitts, and a new party called the People's Labour Party, also from St. Kitts. Together, those 3 parties had 7 of the 11 available seats, and they came together and formed a government. We went back to the polls in 2020, and those 3 parties together returned 9 of the 11 seats. and again form the government. Unfortunately, that government collapsed under its own weight. Because you see, coalition governments work, and they can work. They work in countries like Israel all the time. They work in other parts of the world. But they depend on the goodwill of the members. And where, as in our case with Team Unity, we had a prime minister who preoccupied himself with undermining all of his colleagues, then it fell apart. It fell apart on its own weight. And I think that was unfortunate, because rather than doing the work of the people and being focused on that, you had individuals in the government focus on trying to undermine each other and trying to jockey to see how they can weaken other elements in the unity construct. And so I am hopeful that St. Martin will learn from the mistakes here, and that those four parties that you described who are getting together to form a government, that they will respect each other, engage with each other, and ultimately ensure that they look out not for themselves but for the people of St. Martin. And if they can do that, I think that they will be successful. That was the promise of Team Unity here in St. Kitts and Nevis, until, as I say, we had elements in there that were more focused on destroying the other elements within the team than doing the work of the people. And ultimately it collapsed. You asked about the political parties here. Well, the opposition in Nevis is the Nevis Reformation Party. We don't really hear much from them. They have a leader, but she appears to spend most of her time asleep. She wakes up once a month and says something, and then she goes back to hibernate again. So I'm not sure if that's how she plans to function for the entire time she's in politics, but that is how she's functioned so far. And as far as I'm aware, there has been no reconciliation between the two members of the NRP, who, as we know, one of them was actually kicked out of the party altogether. Let me go to the phones and take this call, and then I come back to you. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, good evening. Me again, I'm looking for some information.
Yes.
Now, there has been much public discussion about the compliance and non-compliance of some persons who are required to file their annual report under the Integrity in Public Life Act. Now, I know that Nevis also has its own act. Will the division be those who are they required to file twice, both in Nevis and in St. Kitts?
So the current legislation in St. Kitts does require some people to file twice. In fact, I'm quite pleased that the first people to file in St. Kitts were the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, the Honorable Latoya Jones, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, and myself. We were the very first people to file in St. Kitts under the new legislation there. And it was easy for us to do because we've been filing now for 4 years in Nevis. But the short answer is yes, some of us are required to file twice, and that is a matter that is now under active discussion to say...
I was thinking, maybe since that is the case, if you have you have the 2 days coinciding, so that when the personal accounts are prepared, you could file the same thing that you're filing Nevis in St. Kitts.
Well, it's the same thing you're filing anyway. Your assets don't change because you're filing it in Nevis or you're filing it in St. Kitts.
What is the date for St. Kitts?
I don't know what the date is offhand. But whatever the date might be, the reality is that things, for example, like do you own a house, do you own a car, those things tend to be pretty static for some time. And I don't see that those will change dramatically.
Of course, your assets as well as your liabilities could increase in the space between the two reporting periods.
Well, it could be, but I'm simply saying it is unrealistic that between that space of time each year you're going to have people having any dramatic shifts in terms of, oh, well, I only had one house in June, I now have 2 by December, and then I have another 3 by whenever. That is, I think, unrealistic. So I see that for the most part, people who file in the Nevis may well be able to file the same thing or something with slight variations in St. Kitts. But the short answer to your question is yes, some people are required to file twice. Those of us who are parliamentarians, we expect that, but we are having even now a discussion about others who are not parliamentarians but who find themselves in public life in Nevis, who are being asked also to file in St. Kitts. And so we are having a discussion with the Attorney General as to the propriety of that, because if those persons already, for example, let me give you an example. If you are part of a statutory corporation in Nevis,
Right, Nevlec and me.
Nevlec, that has absolutely nothing to do with the federal government. And yet you're being told that you have to file in St. Kitts as well. So we're saying, well, if the people already have to file in Nevis, why are we subjecting them again when they do not hold any federal
Well, this is
office?
why I was saying the same account. Maybe get the dates closer so you just coincide, so that it cut out the gaps.
Well, we are saying two different things, because what I'm saying is that some people who are being required to file at the federal level have no connection whatsoever with the federal government. They don't hold any federal office. And I'm suggesting that that legislation ought to be amended to exclude them.
But would they also be in the pool of those who have not complied?
But I don't know about
Because
that.
the DPP has promised to take action.
Well, I don't know about that. The DPP will have to
Maybe
take.
you should find out.
The DPP will have to take what action is available to the
I know,
DPP.
but if it is going to affect persons or bodies in Nevis who might fall into that net, then the matter should be discussed before action is taken.
No, I quite
That's
agree.
my suggestion, eh?
But I agree with your caller. But by the same token, if you know that you have an obligation, then you comply with your obligation. Isn't that the way it works?
As you say, some of these statutory bodies in Nevis have nothing to do with the federal government.
I understand. I said that. But if the law says that this is what you must do, then what do? You choose not to do it and face criminal prosecution?
Right. As a lawyer, you know, if the law does not thing, then matters should be discussed maybe with the AG or whatever to get that matter clarified before people find themselves being charged.
Caller, there is no need for clarification. The law says what it says.
So
If the law say that Mr. Jones, who is in such a position, must file, then Mr. Jones must file, unless Mr. Jones challenges the law, saying that it is somehow illegal, unlawful, unconstitutional.
But you, as the premier,
Yes.
should be the one to bring it to the notice of the commission in St. Kitts.
But I have said to you earlier, if you were listening, that we are in discussions with the Attorney General to say to him that the net in St. Kitts has been cast too wide. But until such time as the law is amended, my advice to anybody who is caught by the legislation is to do what the legislation requires them to do.
I agree with you with that. I was just saying having to file twice at different dates because people could delay just a couple when they got that day. You go in and you make you see your preparation, and then the next day you pick up. Actions can take place in the gap. Anyway, I'm hoping for the best, and I want our people to demonstrate integrity. And I hope that they have auditors to audit these accounts that are presented, somebody to research them, because it's one thing I do talking in the house when they're passing about signing and not signing. What is the relevance of not signing?
Signing and not signing what? What are you talking about? I'm sorry.
Huh?
When you say
You can
sign,
answer me, I'm going to hang up. What is the relevance of you submitting your return and not signing it? I'll hang up.
okay, well, I don't know, because as far as I know, the law prescribes that not only must you put in a return, but that matter that you put in, it must be signed under oath, that you must go to the Commission of Votes or somebody of that nature and sign. That's what I understand, and certainly, as far as I know, that's what we've been doing here. So, caller, it is new for us. I believe that too much noise is being made, in my humble opinion. I believe what we need is more education, meaning that those who have put the legislation in place, particularly in St. Kitts, because I said it has been at work in Nevis for about 4 years so far. In fact, I will tell you that in Nevis, some people who the legislation says should file decided not filing, and they took the matter to court. We actually have a court decision. I believe that court decision, I don't have it in front of me, but I think that it did say that one or two of them were successful in being excluded, but the rest had to file. So, that's what the process is about, and I think that it behooves those of us who are involved to try to educate the public as to what it is we're trying to do. Some people see it as a nuisance, and I appreciate that. But remember that we're trying to guard against the corruption and excesses that we have seen at work from time to time. And the only way we can get government to be more transparent. A lot of people seem to point the finger at the ministers, and they say the politicians are the ones. Them are the ones who thief and corrupt and bad. And I will tell you, caller, and I say so candidly, in my experience being in government, I have not, since I have been in government, since 2013 in Nevis, seen or heard any allegation, seen any evidence of any minister or cabinet member engaging in anything untoward. I have never seen that. But during that time, I can tell you that there have been functionaries in the public service who have taken up what they didn't put down. And so a lot of times when we are gazing, and our gaze is on the politician because we have built a narrative that all the politicians bad and worthless and thief. The real skullduggery is not happening by cabinet members, it is happening elsewhere. And so this is intended to create a new environment, and so we must be willing to talk about it and to discuss it. I personally have no difficulty filing in St. Kitts, filing in Nevis, filing in Timbuktu, because I have nothing to hide. And I believe that those who are in public service equally should have nothing to hide. I think the concern has to be with where the federal legislation appears to have overreached and is asking for individuals in Nevis who have no connection and have no federal office of any kind, that they too must file in St. Kitts. And the question is why? But again, I tell you that if you're caught by the legislation, go ahead and file. Do not run the risk of being prosecuted. Allow us to have the conversation to see how we can amend the legislation. But my sense is that it is better to be safe than sorry. And particularly if you're in the practice of filing in Nevis, then there ought to be no big issue about you also filing in St. Kitts, because the information should be readily available to you. When I file, I have not bought anything, I have not sold anything really, so for the most part, caller, I just update my bank accounts. That is all. My bank letter is what I update, because what little piece of land I have, I had before, I just have, I report that, and sometimes that is an easy way. So a lot of it is just photocopying the same information, and then you update the information that does change, your credit card balances, your bank accounts, things of that nature. But I'm happy that we're having a conversation, caller, because that's what happens in mature democracies. People are required to put themselves to some level of scrutiny when they occupy certain positions of trust. And so for me, that is an important consideration. Now, going back to the earlier caller who had some questions as I was commenting, I'm not sure what's happening with the NRP. As I said, the leader doesn't really engage, so we don't know what she's saying. And who was the deputy leader has now been expelled from the party, so there's nothing new that is happening there. Let me go to the phones then and take this call. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
Yes, and I am just getting home from church.
Okay.
And I'm calling out of Stacia so you would know who's calling you.
Yes, brother. All the best for the new year.
Yeah, it's my first call for the year, so a happy new year. And best wishes to you, your family, and your leadership. Now, I listen intensely, and listening, and it's good to know that you're doing your part. You have to file, and keep pressing on, keep moving on, and do what is the best thing to do, as you and your staff, you and your colleagues, and if I must put it that way, as you continue to lead in the responsibility, first of all, the people has asked you to do. And under God, you'll be successful. Best wishes again, and all the best.
Thank you so much, my brother, and I trust that everything is good in Stacia. It is always good to hear your voice, and I'm happy to hear you in church tonight. I hope you said a prayer for all of us.
Well, I do continually, and when I do that, I mean, I believe in the fact God sets up and He takes down.
Yes.
and he chooses who he may.
Exactly.
Irrespective of how I may feel or what have you. God is in control. And in every aspect we should allow him to lead and let him be in control. Well, here in Statia, we are on a sad note in that we have had 3 deaths for the year.
Oh, wow.
And on Sunday, we have another funeral, from since Christmas Day until now, families have been struck. It is something that is hard, but we can't get accustomed to it. But that's part of life. So we're still on the period of mourning. Yeah, and families here in Statia, well, just like Nevis, in one way or another, we are close-knit.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So when you talk, well, for example, let me put it this way. When I stay down here in Statia and talk about Mark Brantley, I better be careful what I say. Because the thing is, you have family down here, and if I don't know, they might, who you're talking about? in Statia and in small communities, I got to be careful what I say in English about some people because you're closely tied, closely connected. But we're safe and we're happy and we're thankful
Good,
for
brother.
what the Lord has done for us. And we all just keep pressing on,
Okay,
keep
brother.
holding on. Best wishes.
All right. Well, best wishes to you, and thanks again for the call. I truly appreciate it. Going back to the earlier call, as we wait for the persons to call again, the numbers are 869-469-1616 and 1700. This is On the Mark. Just in case you're just tuning in, and my name is Mark Brantley, Premier of Nevis and host of this show tonight. And I welcome all of you. I know that we have people who are viewing and listening online and making their comments as well. And I'm engaging from time to time in the gaps with them. And so I thank them for being a part of the show. We still have about 25 minutes left. So you can certainly call in and be a part of the show before we close off at 10. Going back to the caller from St. Martin, who I thought asked some really good questions. He asked if we saw the possibility of a coalition government happening on Nevis. As I indicated to him, we did have such a government in St. Kitts and Nevis starting in 2015, which ultimately collapsed under its own weight. But I think that those governments are viable. Other places in the world have shown that they can be viable. And even Team Unity was very viable. I still think that Team Unity was a brilliant idea. Unfortunately, we had the wrong person leading the team, and so we ended up in some disarray. But that aside, I believe that the prospects still exist for coalition governments. In Nevis, it's difficult, caller. We only have 5 seats, and we still only have the 2 political parties. We had a political party that appeared in the last election and has promptly disappeared. And so we don't know what the purpose of that political party was, because I don't think that they ever had any real intentions to have any longevity. And so we'll have to wait and see how that turns out. There could be room for independent candidates, as we saw in Antigua recently, where Asset Michael ran as an independent and won convincingly. So we're not sure. We don't know where politics is going to go. They say a day is a year in politics, so we'll wait and see. But I myself believe that whatever the electorate decides, their voice is the voice of God, and it is for those who are elected to then get together to ensure that they form a government which is guided by the fundamental principle of looking out for the people. That, I think, is what is critical, and so we certainly look forward to seeing what the future holds. I may not be involved, but certainly others who will come will have to make those decisions and those determinations as we move forward. So thank you for those very thought-provoking questions that you asked, and we will certainly continue to engage and to see how we can best, through conversations like this, answer each other and get a better appreciation of what's happening. Let's go back to the telephones and take another call. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Mavis Paris.
Hey, Mavis, how are you?
I am good. At this moment, I want to take time out and wish everyone health and happiness and all that they dream for and work for the new year. The year is still new for me because this is my birth month. It don't end till January finish. So that's it for me, my greeting. Now, you touched on some major concerns. I am a civil servant. And as a civil servant, I get in a lot of trouble. I get into a lot of trouble because I am not one that champions double salary. I believe the double salary should be a merit. You would have been an extremely good worker, deserving of such an honor. And I think that some of us as civil servants think that it is our right and our due, and became highly disgruntled when it was not being delivered. Too many times we're not showing up for classes, but we present. We're not showing up, but we write in that we present. We in the office, we on our personal calls, we're not attending to the customers that come in. Customers call and ask questions, you're not returning phone calls. And like you say, these are the same people who have a second job, and you should see them on the P's and Q's in the second job. That's one. Two, another issue I want to hit is priority and financial wisdom. Some people think that their gratuity is supposed to pay off their bills. Gratuity is a gift for you to go home with. You should have planned your financial life in such a way that your income as you were working would have taken care of those bills, unless something like illness or loss of job derail you. So I need people to get a little bit more wise with their fiscal policies, the way they spend. Today I was amazed. A child had in a hairstyle in her head. And I said, so I want to do one for my birthday. How much for it? He said, teacher, you really want to know? One pack of braids, $60. I have 3 packs in my head. That's $180. Then I had to buy another pack to wrap the 3 packs with. Cost $50. That's $230 right there. And then I had to pay the woman $200 to plait the hair. Parents and her mother paid. Parents are doing these kind of things and then expect you to pay their medical bill. So where are their priorities? I am not going to walk up and down with no card begging for no money to help me when I am sick. If I can't afford it, the good Lord will have to take me. But people have to practice sound financial decisions. They're eating out every day. And I just want them to stop saying things gone up high and start managing your money.
Mavis, let me ask you. I think you and I know each other well. What do you think has changed in Nevis? Or what do you think are the reasons for the change? Because all of us grew up, particularly those of us who grew up around elderly, elders in the community. You hear things like save for a rainy day, put a little something aside. I mean, I recall that. What has happened to Nevis?
This. The name Smith, and I want to live like Jones. It's called follow fashion. Overextending and overreaching, not being contented with what you have, not being wise and smart with it, trying to live the Instagram life when you only got Facebook money. Not understanding such wisdom. You see me? You have to plan. Eat out a special occasion. Man, if you give me ice cream for my birthday, take a little bit and live long. That's what it is.
Well, we definitely have to turn things around, because I think the current path that we find some of our people on is unsustainable. And I agree with you that our people tend to find money to do certain things, but the essentials, they want somebody else to pay. So they won't pay the Nevlec bill. They won't pay the water bill.
You need to go back to civics training in the school too. Because a lot of times the children are running the home. So if you train them in a school with some civics, they might go home and have a sensible conversation.
What you mean when you say the children running the home? Tell me.
Huh?
What you mean when you say the children running the home?
They decide what they want when they want. His mother say, I cooking rice today. They said not nearing eating it. I want shrimp pasta. And the mother paid out the $25 and they run go buy it. But it is because they have used money to do the parenting. So they are pacifying the children with these things.
It look like we need a whole show with you, you know.
You could do that.
Because we need, I think, some real conversations in Nevis, because, you know, people like to, I mean, I came on this show one night and I pointed out a few things. And my thing was that our people need to be more responsible, because a lot of us are taking irresponsible decisions, and then we like to say it's somebody else's problem. So I made the point, and having made the point, one of the people who is close to me politically called me and asked me, boy, you want to lose the election, you can't tell people them kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that is part of the problem, that we continue to sort of pander to people. We know what the right thing is, you know. We know what the answer is. We know when we see somebody doing things where they're living above their means, they're putting themselves in problem, right? You're not paying your bills, but you live in a high lifestyle. I like the way you put it. You live in an Instagram life and a Facebook pocket, right?
Yeah.
But the problem that we have is that nobody is prepared to tell them. And when people in leadership like me raise the alarm, the response is, oh, you got something against people and whatever, and you're disrespecting people. It's not that. But I think that we need to start as a society.
Real I had to give your daughter a real conversation one time in my class. She did some work for me. It wasn't well done. And I looked her full in the face and I said to her, I know your father when he and we one shop to school. You don't come here and squander in money. So I am not accepting that for you. You know what your child did? She went home. I gave her until the end of the week. That was Monday. She went home Monday and bring it back Tuesday. Well done. And she and I are very good friends. And you know why? Because she said, Peter, nobody else has spoken up to me like you did. And I honor you. I accept that. Everybody is pandering when it is Mr. or daughter. They never say nothing. They let them go down the road. When it is this, they don't fit. It's like in education we call it kick and kiss syndrome. If you like them, you nice them up. If you don't like them, you kick them. You let them go about the place. And we need to give equal treatment and training to all, because everybody needs it.
Thank you, Mavis. I think that you've given us a lot of food for thought. I really appreciate the call, and I appreciate this conversation. Yes.
As a teacher, there are many teachers there working for more money than I, but they find it amazing that when one car mash up for me, I roll into another one. You know why? Because Miss work closer than 15 years old. If they ain't mash up, I ain't gonna replace them. I am not going to jump in my car every day to go to Buddies, to go wherever and buy a plate of food every day. I bring my food to school every day. When the microwave breaks, I buy another microwave in my own classroom and I share it with people, children, telling them, this is how you save so much. I have a story. I said in my class, boy, I wish my mother was stupid like I was. Because every day I am going to give her $25. $25 for lunch. Students getting every day. And inside of my class, there were Nigerians getting that, there were Guyanese getting that, there were Jamaicans getting that. When the class finished, the Guyanese and the Jamaicans come up to me and say, teacher, what do you mean? I said, if my mother was giving me $25 a day, I would spend $5 because I would take the Kool-Aid out of the house and buy the hot dog in a school. So I would spend $5 and I would save $20. Well, the Guyanese and the Jamaicans took up the challenge. I came back to class when they told me that is what they're doing. And I explained to the division students, they never took up that channel. The Jamaican inside her home, their washing machine went bad. And the mother and father wondering when they're going to get the money and tell them that they're going to take 3 months to save up the amount of money for the down payment. The daughter said, if I have the money and I give it, if you can get the money, will you pay back the person who gives you the money? They said yes. She said, okay, to see that you believe, I believe you. Write it on this paper and sign your name. She pulled out the bank account that I helped her to open and said, Mommy, I have this money. But how you get this money? From lunch money. Me teacher will explain. You know, teacher, Miss Hanley, I always a thing more she didn't explain. So, now, see the money here and pay me back. You hear me? The Guyanese now, she was able to get the money to buy she ticket to go to Guyana to upgrade she passport. When the end of the year done and I asked the division, so how much money you got? Teacher never got none. Me eat my lunch every day, $25.
Interesting.
So what you saying, and I'm talking about 2 children that lying, that are telling lies because I don't see them with the money. And then you wonder, Lord God, how they really do this with the kind of salary that the parents should be working for. I guess those are some of them who want to look good between their friends, not paying their lick.
Okay. Thank you, Mavis. Thank you for the call. I think you've given a lot of us food for thought, and I sincerely appreciate the frank way in which you've expressed some truths. I don't think anybody could argue with you.
Yes.
These are the realities that we deal with.
Next plug. I heard the minister in Finkies talk about what you have, using them differently. So I like to recycle clothes. If you have some old jean pants, you could come to a class and learn to make some shopping bags with it. Something, come do something. I still have my class. Call Mavis for sewing lessons. 664-2209. So come and learn how to help yourself. Because something old becomes something new. You have a dress, you no longer like it, turn it into a skirt.
What you say the number is again?
My name and number?
Yeah.
Davis Paris, 664-2209.
664-2209.
09. My business name, Just So. JUSTSEW. Just So. I'll show you how to make your money sing.
So you're saying that you can take yes, old clothing and all of that and transform it into something.
And change it up.
Yes. So the dress becomes a skirt.
Yes. Listen, sometimes I have a t-shirt and you take the one t-shirt and you take another t-shirt, the bottom of the t-shirt, and you turn it to the t-shirt and the t-shirt became a dress.
Got you.
You hear?
And if you have that skill, you can save a lot of money.
Of course. That is how I save a lot of money. And you don't need 2 pair of shoes because I'm a mass up first. You buy a pair of black pumps when I have on a design, and then you take 2 clip-on earrings. You wear these shoes to work Monday, and then you put on the clip-on earrings on Sunday and go to church.
You put you put the clip-on earring where? On the shoe?
On the shoe.
Babies, well, I tell you, I need a whole show with you. Thank you very much. All right. Have a good night. Thank you for your call.
You're welcome.
Okay, my dear. All the best. God bless you. All right. That is Mavis Parrish sharing some truths with us. And I think that I like this caller because she's not calling to try and make people feel good. She's speaking the truth. And I think that that's important. And there are some lessons because we do have people in the population who, to use her language, are trying to lead an Instagram life on a Facebook pocket. And I think that that's important. Because a lot of us is all about the show. We need the latest this and the latest that. We need the latest hairstyle, the latest nails. It's all about putting on a show. And then the question is, can we afford it? And then the same people then come and not doing the essentials. Won't pay for water, won't pay for electricity, and then the government must forgive this and the government must waive this, and I help poor people. But priorities, responsibility. I think that's the point that Mavis is making, and she has put it far better than I could. But those are the lessons that we need to learn. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. Okay, we've lost that caller. Caller, please call back in. We've apologized. Let's try this call. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Yes, good evening.
And how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I can't agree with that caller more. I think you need to bring next week, God willing, to sit in on your show. I want to speak about where the food part is concerned. Right? Some of us, I'm saying some of us, including me, well, not to say I do it, but, as a peer one. Instead of asking our child/children what we want, what they want, he or she or they want to eat, we need to make them eat what we cook.
I'm listening.
Hello?
I'm listening, caller. We're listening to you. We're listening to you. Go ahead.
Because if sometimes you cook, when you ask them what you want to eat, they want KFC, they want Domino's, pizza, they want some other fast food thing.
Which sometimes is not even good for them.
I know, and then when you look now, you hear children 9 and 10 years got sugar, diabetes, or sugars we say locally, and all them kind of things. I remember a few years ago, only old people used to really, and adults, like middle-aged adults used to get them things. Now you hear children 9 and 10 years got sugar and stuff.
And obesity is a big problem.
Yeah, I think we need to really move away from that. And I mean, if they want what we cook, they stay hungry or they drink water. And some of us, we tend to like to compare and compete with others. And we need to tell our children, like, stop watch people and watch this and watch that, and live within our means. Some of us would like to live above our means as well.
Caller, let me ask you this. Many of us in St. Kitts and Nevis grew up very poor.
Yeah.
I am in that category, and I think a lot of us came from a very poor background. It seems to me to be a natural sort of inclination that when you didn't get enough to eat when you were a child, you struggled, you walked barefoot, you didn't have shoes, you didn't have clothes, etc. That as God has blessed you and you're doing better in life, you have this thing where you say you don't want your children to have any of the hardship that you had. And so all of us, it is natural that we try to give our children a better life than we had.
Yeah, that is true.
So whereas you and I used to walk to school, we want them to be driven to school. Where we used to go barefoot, we want them to have shoes. That kind of thing. And I'm wondering if that may not be part of it, that we are trying to ensure that our children have a better life than we did. So when the child now says they want this kind of shoe or they want that, then we are quick to provide it to them because we think that is part and parcel of giving the child a better life than we ourselves had.
Well, let me butt in there. Where this shoe is concerned, like in terms of school, I think, I'm going to be honest with you, I think it's best to buy a good quality pair of shoes. It might be expensive, but it's worth it because you might go some other place and you buy a pair of shoes for $75. When you look, that pair of shoes lasts a week. Whereas if you buy a pair of Timberlands, they will maybe last them for the whole day, just that maybe the front or the mouth of the shoe, as we say, the color might fade because they're going to kick stones, bottles, and so forth. But they do last, and as well as the school bags. Because, these books, nowadays the children are carrying, as you see some of them that have bags with wheels and things because of the weight of the books and so forth. So I think we should invest in the shoe and the bag. So I'm not going to say much about where the shoe is concerned. Because that's when you buy a cheap pair of shoe, you only last in a week or two.
Okay. All right, caller. Thank you for your input.
So I'll invite the lady in next week. I'll listen, God's willing.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Mavis, there seems to be a demand because people blowing up my phone saying that they really appreciate what you said. And I know Mavis long time, and Mavis talk it all, as we say. That is how she is. She's a plain person, but one of the nicest and kindest human beings you could ever imagine. And I remember when she went all the way to Indonesia to learn a bit more about batik, and she is excellent at what she does. So Mavis, thanks for the call. We'll have to arrange to have you on the show for sure, because so many people are saying that is a type of wisdom that they want imparted. And maybe when I say so, it don't sound quite the same because I'm a politician. You saying so, people may gravitate to it a bit more. And so we need, despite the different voices, our people saying the same thing. Our people need to be responsible. And this ton-load are running up and down and following the Joneses, whoever it is we're trying to follow, we need to stop that. We used to have a saying where they say you cut your suit you cut your cloth to suit. You cut your cloth based on what you have. You make it do. You know, you make it do. And we used to have principles on this island. Your mother saying you, even though you leave home, you not got no belly full. Things are hard. But guess what? Don't beg nobody. Walk straight. Come straight. Do not take up what you didn't put down. Those were things that were drilled into us. Drilled into us. No beg nobody nothing. Walk straight. Come straight. Not take up what you not put down. And somehow it seems that we've lost that. You know? And I'm not sure. People have a tendency to try to say, oh, the politicians. But the politicians are not who are raising your children. You're raising your children. And we need to sometimes look at what we are doing. I marvel all the time that people will make sure they pay flow and make sure they pay Digicel. But then I pay Skelec and then I pay Nivlec. But how are they going to charge the phone if they don't got the electricity? They prefer for the electricity to be cut off than to have their phone cut off. I mean, priorities. These are things we need to look at. Water is life. We can't live without it. And yet some people don't want to pay for it. And the same money that you'll pay for 1 month's supply of water, that's one meal at KFC. It's about priorities. And I think our people need to hear these lessons and learn from them. The banner struck up, it means we have to go. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we had a wonderful show tonight. A lot of things were said. I'm hopeful that those who didn't get a chance to listen will tune in tomorrow. And Mavis said some things I believe that are worth repeating, worth listening to, and worth putting into practice. We thank all who participated. Again, tomorrow we lay to rest Mr. Brand's mom, and we hope that all of you would show up, turn out in St. Paul's Anglican Church to say farewell and to give some comfort to the family. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. This show is rebroadcast tomorrow, of course, right here on One Radio at 1 p.m. And so for those of you who listen tonight but want to listen twice, please do. Thank you, good night, and God bless you.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.